Hey everybody, this is PD from the Spinner Rack, and we also have
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
today we are talking about Superman number one. No, not the original number one, yet a new number one that put it out with the what is it? The dawn of new. What is it? The dawn of something or another.
Dawn of DC.
Dawn of DC. This is the new plan. Instead of 5G, it's the dawn of DC, right? And you want to tell us about this?
All right, well, years ago, about 1986, DC decided to reboot Superman with a brand new number one, and it's been happening ever since then. Aside of that, we just had a storyline that was instituted by Brian Michael Bendis, where Superman outed his secret identity. Now, Brian Michael Bendis's run also started with a new number one issue for Superman. However, to try to distance themselves from that storyline and where it went and how it wrapped up, DC is now starting over again with another fresh number one issue of Superman, chock full with variant covers. And those of you who are into legacy numbering, don't worry. This is about issue 844, 845. So by the time we get to about issue 900, they'll go back to regular legacy numbering because, of course, they want to do Superman 1000. But that's pretty much why we're getting a new number one.
And the story itself, you want to go into that?
Oh, that's what you meant? Sure.
Well, that too. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, well, let's see. Again, some more background. Superman spent in real time for us story wise, he was about a year on War World, looking to liberate the people from Mongols' thrall there. He's recently returned back to Earth, and so we're starting again with the getting back to basics, that sort of thing. Status quo, where's everybody at? Maybe some new characters get introduced. And if you were keeping up with Action Comics 1050, the fact that Superman had revealed his secret identity to everyone, Lex Luthor came in, did some scientific mumbo jumbo with the help of Manchester Black, and now nobody remembers, with the exception of a handful of people who are close to Superman. And if somebody tries to remember, it actually causes them significant pain to the point they might actually die. Perry White tried to remember this, and it actually put him in the hospital. He almost had a heart attack. And with that being said, we have our new status quo in that Lois Lane in charge of the Daily Planet as editor in chief. Clark Kent's back at the Daily Planet. Jimmy Olsen is over here running around. Got a new. John Kent no longer has his identity exposed to the world. And so we go. One thing that is different is that Lex Luthor knows that Superman is Clark Kent. I don't know how long they can go with that. That makes very little sense, but it just doesn't. If this is your biggest enemy, it doesn't make any sense for him to have this information at his hand. But you know what? Eventually they think they can make it work, so they'll go with it. But what we have right now, Superman's back in Metropolis, and Lex Luthor knows that Superman keeps out an ear for his particular voice, and so he's always whispering, trying to guide Superman, tell him what he should do, and pretty much just trolling Superman on a regular basis. He even goes so far as to incorporate Superman's name into LexCorp. So instead of LexCorp, it's SuperCorp, and now everybody's supposedly working for Superman, and Superman says, "Hey, I don't want to do this. The contract will be nullified. All these people will lose their jobs." So it's a whole bunch of stuff going on over there with Lex, where he's less of an arch nemesis and more of an arch troll, at least for right now. Now we got new art by artist Jamal Campbell. It's written by Joshua Williamson, who a lot of people liked his War World run. And in terms of story, this is actually a very solid start. This is a book I can recommend to people who are Superman fans, who are not Superman fans. They even make use of Mighty Mouse's signature contrail, and that's just a fun thing to see. But the art it's not photorealistic art. It's definitely more comic book, more cartoon type stuff, but it allows for a sense of wonder in the book, which a lot of times can be missing from a character like Superman, which should always be there. The writing, it's closer to maybe like a Bronze Age story, where we have a story going on, but we have some subplots as well. And it hits all of the particular things with Superman that we would expect. He's out there doing what he's supposed to do. He has time for everybody, it seems, though. He has time to hang out with some people at a wedding. He has time for his family. He has time to He has time to save people. Everything that you would imagine he has time for until he doesn't, because something else happens and some villain happens. And then once we see that, we're like, okay, these are challenges made specifically for Superman. So if it's something that doesn't allow him to actually have the normal amount of time he would, we know this is something significant happening. And we get that in the form of not just the parasite, but a whole bunch of parasites that seem to come from out of nowhere, and Superman has to contend with that. So all in all, for me, I really enjoyed this. I mean, I'm not really big on reboots and renumbering of issues, especially since they're going to go back to legacy numbering for a character like Superman. But this was a really solid start after a lot of criticism that the book received while Bendis was on, and even with Joshua Williamson's run, where a lot of Superman readers checked out because they wanted to see Clark Kent, they wanted to see Superman in Metropolis, and again, Warworld was a very well executed storyline, but this is right up the alley of those people who wanted those particular things. And for guys who don't normally read Superman, hey, this is starting off pretty well. So if you're interested in reading something that's good as opposed to just reading what you want, this is something that would be up your alley as well.
Well, for me, this was kind of, I mean, it's an okay start. It's usually what happens when you have different, there's no sort of editorial thing, because when Livewire was kind of brought in, she was brought in from with a cartoon, and basically she had power enough to hurt Superman. And then when she was introduced in the comics, she was able to hurt Superman, and now we're tossing that out. We're just gonna toss all that. All those comic books didn't happen. We're just gonna say he just like can just dance around just absorb the lightning with no problem.
Well, that was Superman the animated series. I really don't think they were gonna. Well,
No, they
Superman,
brought her in with the same sort
yeah,
of power level.
they brought her in because Harley Quinn hit, and they were like, "Hey, why don't we bring this one in too? Maybe lightning will strike twice, no pun intended," and it didn't.
Well, I'm saying they're still using her, so it's like it's not obviously they
She she's used
can't.
intermittently here and there, and some people do like her, but I just lightning can't hurt Superman. They did that on the show. They had a whole bunch of stuff going on that show that I thought was just totally egregious in terms of how they handled Superman power wise and even his response to certain things. They had episodes where he was flinching from fire. It just didn't make any sense. So the idea that Livewire was going to come in and have enough electrical current to actually bother him is just inconsistent with how the character was in the comic.
Well,
And it wouldn't be fair to retool Superman so she can actually be a threat. You got to retool her somehow, and
well,
that was never her ability.
they didn't really. The thing of it is, I think whatever her power levels of it was, because I mean, Superman within every sort of period could take a hit from lightning or from out of the sky. But whatever her power level of it was, it should obviously be different since it was affecting them. So I don't for when
In the cartoon,
no in the comic.
yeah, but that was still like in line with what was in the mainstream comic or the
Mainstream, not
or
an animated comic. In the mainstream comic, they brought her in, and
mhm.
it's like a big, like it hurt him. It's like
Yeah,
I would see
that's
if it was they didn't do that, but I mean, it's just like,
well,
well,
that's first that's your first that what is it? That's your that's your first appearance hit. Like, oh man, good
no,
grief.
that's
What hit me? Okay. Okay,
no,
never again.
that's
That's it.
like.
You don't get that anymore.
But she keeps. I'm saying if he's dodging it, yeah. But if he's getting hit by it, that's the
How
thing
many
I can't. I can't.
that would be
If
crazy.
you set up the character some way and say that, hey, we've already seen him in the present, even in the '80s, be able to take lightning. Then you introduce Livewire, where her power is somewhere up beyond that to hurt him. I don't. You take the character and say, you know what, the same thing that everyone does. Hey, the tarantula is able to handle Spider-Man. Then someone says, you know what, this guy is lame. He's not going to be able to. Or the what's the name? The Kingpin. This guy is lame. That sort of storytelling. If they want to do that, they could find someone else to do it. But then it's just like we don't really like this live wire character, so we're gonna just take her down a peg because we don't do it because we have these other characters which we can of course affect Superman, which you see later in the story. But ultimately, we have a cutesy sort of beginning where you take on Livewire, who's going to be your intro action type of thing. Then you
Yeah,
have him, obviously, and as you already said, do the stuff around town
a
and
quick,
a little bit
quick,
of what's the
quick
name?
stock villain. Quick stock villain I can throw in jail quickly and just keep moving.
Well, ultimately, we're seeing if this is the same writer that did the Mongol story with.
Yeah.
So it just depends on how long this thing is going to go with these new villains. I would say, because obviously this is like a, almost a prelude to what's going on, because we haven't even introduced the villains yet. They just kind of hint that these are Lex Luthor's enemies that we haven't seen yet, or maybe we haven't seen them in this form that are going to
Well,
come
let's see.
out
We got,
after.
what did they get? They showed us. We saw Bizarro. Uh, you saw like Lex Luthor, who had this Lex Luthor hasn't been. I'm not even sure exactly which Lex, because there was a Lex Luthor from a while ago that was a clone, and that supposedly that dude's gone. You also saw Silver Banshee was there, and I forget who was doing the operating. I'd have to look at that again. But those are the people that we're seeing so far. But those aren't traditionally Lex Luthor villains. So I'm still, we got some time to see what else is going to be coming down the pike with them.
So yeah, it's more of a, you know, it's gonna. I mean, it led to a cliffhanger at the end where Superman kind of walks into this thing where he doesn't know what it is. But we get a I guess a picture of an article kind of showing you who these, or at least one of them is going to be one of these new villains that come up. And I'm always okay with new villains, but you know it's kind of okay story. Just that live wire thing and maybe a little more. But I think who knows how many issues it's going to take to get to these villains and explain them. But I guess it's going to be one of those, a decent level arc to kind of introduce these guys rather than seeing them right here. So, and yeah, I guess with Luthor talking to him through the entire time, I didn't like the idea of hearing that the Batman too. But it's trying to utilizing his super hearing in certain ways. But the other thing of him talking back to Luthor, I don't know how that works. Hush, like wait, he can't hear you. But it's
Isn't that just supposed to be regular frustration where you start responding to people like, even though
yeah,
they can't hear them? That's just reflex.
maybe. But it's the art looks okay. It's kind of a Terry
Okay.
Johnson
Oh,
type
what
thing.
about okay? What about those contrails? What about that opening? What about that opening splash with the panels in the cape? What about that?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's
Good stuff.
It's, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I just, at some point, I want to
Uh
see
oh. Uh
where
oh. We got a hater. We got a
it's
hater
not a
there.
hater. That's not hate. Anything that
Yeah.
that don't come out and doesn't come out of
No, they
canon
didn't.
to
What,
you.
they didn't give Livewire didn't kill Superman, so now this is a bad issue.
No, I'm just saying I don't like taking the villains down a peg. I think it was no.
She's
That I
not a
mean, see
major.
now you did what are you doing? I'm saying my thing is not hating it. You just turned my whole thing into hating.
I
Like
ain't
why
turning the
would
whole thing
you?
into hating. I'm
You
just
just
having. What is it? I'm just
did.
no. I'm just having a go at you. Your positivity is a little bit lacking, so I'm just having a little go at you there. That's all. Trying to give the people some entertainment.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
like it's like Livewire is just not. She's just not. I mean, she's like a third tier Superman villain at best. So she came in. They tried to make her. I mean, the fact I remember that issue too because she came in and I was looking at it like really, and I was like, well, this won't last, and it didn't. She's just not a. She was like somebody to challenge him on the cartoon and making that jump over to the comic. If you want to do that, there has to be some reason as to why she's able to affect them with her ability with lightning and electricity, and all the other characters who also have this particular ability don't really affect him in that manner. So if you do that, then okay. But if you're just going to present her there, then after a while it just doesn't do anything, and they didn't do anything with that. I mean, you got Superman who is taking shots from Shazam's magical lightning, the Wizard's lightning, not Captain Marvel, but Shazam's lightning, and keeps on trucking. So why is she affecting him? If you're
So,
going to go into it and actually give us some reason for it, okay. Otherwise it just fades. It's like, okay, it's your first
so
it's your first debut. We're going to give you some, we'll give you some propers for, being here for your first time, and then exit stage left.
But that's the lightning from the Captain Marvel lightning. That's a late day addition because they already established in the DC universe, because that was the whole hook of Legends, that he's calls Shazam, and then you see a big explosion to this mountainous guy gets killed, or this I guess it's like a person's mind. I forget the character, the fourth world character, and kills the thing, and then Billy Batson runs off and says, "I can never do this again." And the next thing you know, when he finally says, "I have to do something. Stuff is going on. It's terrible." And then he says, "Does Shazam?" He said, "My lightning doesn't do that," and move on. And then they turned it into, I don't know if it was before Kingdom Come or not, but then turned it into a weapon. So that
Well, Kingdom Come,
I negate that what's the name
I don't know,
the
because
power
before
as
that,
a weapon.
Legend said one thing, and then previously you had the matchup between Captain Marvel and Superman in the Treasury edition, where
Oh.
Captain Marvel was thinking to use his lightning against Superman, but he decided not to because he didn't know if it would how it would affect them, if Superman would actually be able to resist it, or if it would kill him. So he never did it. So you have that instance there, and then later on, when it's rebooted, he's saying, "Oh no, my lightning doesn't work like that." So it's not definitively, and I can't even say definitively answered. We get, because Kingdom Come is an alternative universe story, so they give us some satisfaction as to doing it right there. That, yeah, it'll affect them, but Superman's tough enough to withstand it. But before that, you had two different schools of thought. One, we don't know how it's going to affect them, and the other, no, it won't affect them onto that. We don't know until it actually happens.
Well, that's the thing. It's more of a transformation for, well, you can always add in something like that, which is obviously what the Treasury is doing. But in the way they handle it, it would make sense that it wouldn't be dangerous to anybody else, indoor, or used as a weapon, since it's, I don't know, with all the pillars that it's connected to. I don't know, in magic, that it'd just be a transformation, a cool visual transformation, rather than, "Hey, we're gonna do this, and I can blow up this house," type of deal. But ultimately, I'm not really for it. You have a character that's, whether the character itself is not a great one, at least formidable in some way. Don't tear them down just to kind of say, "Well, that was then, this is now," or that sort of thing, or build them up for a past where they're supposed to be. So if you
That was
introduce
then.
that
This
to
is
them,
now, baby.
you can't decide. We're gonna I just don't like this character, so I'm gonna just tear this apart. So
I don't
ultimately,
know. Give it. Well, we've seen the character. You're probably going to see Livewire again, so you can always hold out to see if there's anything further with it. But me as a Superman reader, she's not a top tier villain. I don't really expect that much from her. And then you run the other extreme where, okay, all of these guys start posing a challenge, and they're not. They're not supposed to. Some of these guys are just annoyances at the end of the day, but you still got to deal with them.
and I guess on this other thing, well, yeah, I just anything else? Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to see how it goes, because that's well, I don't know, the dissecting Bizarro or something like that at the end.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know. I think the person sitting at that console is, it looks like that's Silver Banshee, and or they're looking at Silver Banshee. I could be wrong, but whoever's doing the operating, I don't know who I can't tell who that is.
mhm. But I mean, they have a hint of
But
everything
with the
that's
power of the
coming.
internet,
Well, we'll see what happens. But I mean, it's a kind of okay, and it has a end where you get to see possible, well, more like a trailer, but it's in panels of what you're going to see. Like it looks like the like the old '90s Legend Has It ads from Dark Horse. But we'll see what happens. It's a number one. Well, I mean, I think the hard part is that with not in a negative, but you had Bendis start off not too terrible. Just here's this new villain, and as it built up, the history that he built up with it would just got terrible and terrible and terrible. But it was just like, okay, here, he's got a new villain. He's fighting, has some interaction with the people in the neighborhood. this is looking okay, but then we gotta go down. And so I am
Well,
hoping that
well,
this state can keep the course of whatever it's trying to do, keep the fun,
yeah.
and not just go immediately dark in here because we get into the dark part of it. Because at the end, we don't know who these guys are, so we'll see what happens, or if this
Well,
is
there's some,
what's the name.
the villains. The villain. I have no problem with the villains being dark and that sort of thing, so long as they remember Superman's not a dark character. And I don't know, Bendis, I have to admit, Bendis got me. He started doing some stuff and he was doing the same thing. He was deconstructing, but he did it a lot slower than he normally would. And by the time I caught on, I was like, wait a second, because he had he killed off Kandor, he got rid of the Kandorians, but I wasn't really married to that idea at the end of the day, so it didn't affect. Then
Mhm.
Lois Lane kind of got shifted off, and John was shifted off as well. Lois is saying we don't have a conventional relationship, so we don't have to spend all this time together, do we? So he effectively wrote Lois Lane out of the story doing that. We don't have to have her around. Okay, a little bit here, but when I realized that, okay, when John came back and he was fully aged, I was like, I don't believe this guy suckered me into thinking that that he was going to do anything other than what he was going to do. And then, of course, as soon as he did that, I was like, yeah, he's going to have Superman reveal his secret identity, and he did. So, you know, thankfully, this doesn't look quite the same as to that. Between this and Action Comics, it looks like they're really trying to do a bit of back to basics, back to basics storytelling in Superman, at least initially, and with Action Comics, a little bit more world building, which is cool. That's one of the things with Metropolis that I've always enjoyed, and they don't tend to do it very often, where they actually show, look, what's the world of Metropolis like? If Superman's going to be here all the time, as some Superman readers like, well, can I get a little bit more? I'd like that earlier on when he had people like Maggie Sawyer or Bibbo, and these were the citizens of Metropolis who actually gave it some vibrancy, not just Superman flying around and saving people, because that's not what Metropolis is supposed to be for me. And they're doing that in Action Comics with definitely broadening it out a bit, bringing John Henry Irons and his daughter more to the forefront, making it more of a family feel, making it more of a Superman family book, if anything else, and but also expanding on Metropolis with those other people there. I think a lot of people don't even realize the Black Lightning is from Metropolis, and him and Superman almost rarely interact at all, with the exception of those initial things. So I like when the characters, I do like when they give that give that more scope at the end of the day. But Superman definitely looks like a back to basics approach initially, and we'll see where it goes from there.
And I guess the only thing is that when you brought up the other thing, the new guy covering the special crimes unit, who's taking over from Maggie, who's in Bloodhaven for some strange reason. Oh, she got married to one of those Batman characters because they couldn't find anyone else to her to get married to.
Who
He's
she
like
got married to? Who she got married to? Batwoman?
Renee, yeah, Renee, what's the name? But it's like the thing was, he was like saying Maggie told him about his Superman's exploits. It's like, can't you just look that on the television? Like,
Well, are
dude,
we thinking? Are we thinking like the behind the scenes stuff, the stuff that nobody else would know? Because I'm pretty
yeah.
certain he could see all that on the television. So, I'm pretty certain she
I've
probably
heard
saw them.
about them. We've all heard about your exploits, Superman. It's like this is what you say when you meet someone new.
Yeah,
Yes, but it's
I'll
kind
bet you any amount of, and I'll bet you any amount of money he's gay.
of don't say that. Don't wish that on them.
Hey, he's replacing Maggie Sawyer, right?
Well, there's that. There could be that aspect to him that
Okay, we're like, oh, what this dude? Oh, wait a minute, we don't have anyone gay on the roster now. We got to have somebody gay, so it's probably going to be him.
yeah. Well, I mean, he's kind of stylish, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, art's okay. Okay first issue. We'll see what happens. And they, graphically decided, we're gonna take Livewire down a peg. But what can you do? This is what happens when you come on
Yeah,
and think,
well,
"No, we're not gonna follow
good grief,
nothing."
somebody really likes Livewire. Didn't know.
Not like it's just like so that's why I bring up like Tarantula or any other character or Kingpin or they say, "Oh, Kingpin was just a fat guy. He's just a fat guy." Or like then he was just called let's call him Fat Man. Stan might as well just call them that. And then it's just like it always goes into the Neil Adams thing. There's no really bad characters, only bad writers. And that's the thing to remember when you're just saying, you know, am I gonna use this for something, or I just need to have the ringer, like in Spider-Man. I'm gonna have the ringer fight Spider-Man, and that's about it. And but yeah, that's the thing that I would say. But anyway, you know, check it out, see what you like, and comment. Spinner Rack
Out.